What was the worst decision you saw someone else make? When I was about 7 years old, I was in the car with my parents, going across the bridge from Niagara Falls, Ontario to Niagara Falls, New York. The deadly Niagara River is right below. There was quite a wait due to traffic, so we were pretty much stopped. A bunch of teenagers were goofing around, hopping out of their car and play fighting, etc. One guy hopped up on the railing of the bridge and did a handstand. It was terrifying. His friends yelled at him, and he hopped down. Then he did it again, and fell over the railing to his death. My family is from Buffalo, New York. My uncle visited the falls a few years back and saw a lady fall in. They had fenced off some parts that are normally accessible because of increased water flow or something like that, and the lady disregarded this, slipped, and fell in. The worst part though is that she actually managed to get up, out of the river, onto a bit of debris or a part of the water-covered path that was somehow accessible. I'm not sure, I wasn't there. She got there and stood up, and everyone watching called for her to stay where she was and wait for a rescue. She didn't listen. She fumbled around, tried to climb on the debris back to shore and slipped and fell back in. Her head was above water all the way to the edge of the falls, and my uncle and other onlookers saw her face, eyes wide open and terrified, right as she went over. She didn't make it. That will never leave him. I had a friend ask another friend to shoot him with a blow dart. First the guy shot him in the leg, but my friend thought that was too easy. He was an overly confident Marine Reserve, so he asked him to shoot him in the side. The guy did, and it punctured his lung, though he wouldn't admit it. Then, trying to play it cool, he decided to go home, when really he was going to the hospital. We all followed him to his car, trying to convince him to let one of us drive or call an ambulance. But he just kept saying nothing was wrong. He collapsed right as he unlocked his car, and we had to call 911. He's fine, aside from his injured ego and dim wits. I once fell off the monkey bars in 4th grade and split my forehead open, blood everywhere, and I also did the whole, "No, it's cool guys, I'm fine. I'm going inside because I have to pee or something. Ha ha ha, I totally bombed that jump, but I'm fine, I swear. No, you're crying, Steve. Ha ha. I'm so okay, I'm just gonna start running inside." And then I fainted. Boys are stupid. A girl I know spent $50,000 on a wedding for a marriage that lasted 6 months. The more she spends on a wedding and freaks about it being perfect, the less she's sure about the actual marriage. People like that don't want marriages, they want weddings. So for her, this wasn't a waste at all. A friend signed with a professional sports organization at 18 years old for $1.2 million and spent 95% of it on junk without put any of it into an investment fund. My 20-years-old minimum wage heart is crying. My 30-year-old recently laid off heart is tying a noose. Some idiot I used to know was convinced pepper in the eye wasn't nearly as painful as people made it sound. We just watched him pour pepper in his open eyes and laughed when the screaming began. A fucking eyelash in my eye or a speck of dirt has me going, ow, fuck. So why on earth would you doubt the painful powers of a spice? I saw an entire country elect an uneducated reality TV star as their president once. I saw a prime minister call a snap election despite having a majority, and then losing it. Saw a rookie drinker at a house party mix Snapple with half a glass of Everclear thinking Everclear was a simple alcohol mixer. 20 minutes later, projectile vomit everywhere. In a redeeming moment, a few hours later, he drunkenly got up from his sleep and decided to haphazardly mop the kitchen and went back to sleep. That's a green flag of a good friend party guest. Friends sold their beautiful home for a huge loss because they were concerned about the way things were going with the local real estate market. Later that year, gentrification took root and their house was worth almost 3 times what they sold it for. This is like RuneScape-level panic selling. I witnessed my friend kick a skunk in order to get it away from him. Bad decision. I had a family of skunks that lived by my house for a long time. I moved. They're probably still there. They were always very friendly so long as you didn't get too close to the kids or act aggressively towards them. They never let me pet them or anything, but they were perfectly content to chill out on the lawn just a few feet away. I told that to an idiot cousin who was over one day, and she apparently interpreted that to mean that it was okay to try and pet one of the kids. It didn't quite go according to plan. Do they really smell as bad as their reputation? They sorta spray shit on people who startle them? We don't have them in my country. I've never seen one. I always liked the smell of skunk on the breeze. Never knew what the big deal was until 2 weeks ago. I was standing at my back door around 3 a.m. smoking a cig. Pitch black. Heard something ambling around near my AC compressor. Figured I'd scare whatever it was away. Took a roll of masking tape laying nearby and lobbed it in that general direction. Heard something scurry off. No biggie. Then the smell hit me. It wasn't a smell. It was a presence. An evil presence. I hadn't even been touched by the spray, but I had to escape immediately. In the 2 seconds my door was open, enough smell got in the house to wake people up. It's that bad. There was one incident in my hometown that made me want to tear my hair out. A family moved in a few years ago. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl. The mother was looking for work as a teacher, but there was no openings, so she worked as an aide. My mother was on the school board at the time, and she noticed that parents were complaining about the lady as she was apparently ignoring students and favoring others, getting angry when her children got bad grades from the other teachers, etc. Mom invited her to the next school board meeting to discuss the situation, and the lady went nuts. The conversation broke down into screaming, and the lady swore she would take Mom's spot on the board. Sure enough, when election sign-ups went up online, she was the only person who ran against Mom. After months of an attempted smear campaign, Mom won the election with more than 200 votes. The lady only got 5, all from her extended family. So what does the lady do? She decides to pull both of her children out of public school as she doesn't want them corrupted by the teachers and the board. The son was a senior in high school, months away from graduation, and the daughter was in middle school. My sister was in her class, and she said the daughter screamed and kicked her mom as she dragged her out of the classroom to check her out, begging her not to do it. She left all of her stuff in her locker, and the school had to send it to them. When Mom heard the news, she was horrified and tried to talk to the family, but the father had been browbeaten by his wife and refused to put the kids back in public. It's been a couple of years since then. The mom homeschooled the kids, but the son works in the oil field and is trying to get his GED. The daughter is a complete rebel and has been arrested numerous times for drunk driving and vandalism. But the mom still has the audacity to act smug whenever someone runs into her at the grocery store. At least my children know how to live in the real world. Sure, Kathy, keep telling yourself that when you have to bail your kid out from jail. Was in Yosemite doing a hike up to the top of, I think, Vernal Falls. Some kid from a large church group decided to swim at the top in the, seemingly but not really, calm water at the top. I saw him get swept away and taken over the edge. The water has been running over there for thousands of years, so the rocks are smooth and there's no vegetation. There's literally nothing to grab a hold of if it happened to you. Was not in the mood to see a kid die that day. Read the signs and please stay the hell out of the water like you're told. Something we learned swimming in creeks in Oz. Don't look at the surface. Put a stick in the water and if it moves in your hand forcefully, don't swim. My friend on why he proposed to his controlling, angry girlfriend of 5 miserable years. I did it so she would stop asking. Wedding is in 3 months. Dude, you need to save this guy's life. Do what you can to break him out of it. He needs to understand that this girl will make the rest of his life miserable. I convinced him to break up with her 3 times. Each time she just cried and refused to leave, so he took it back. I don't think anything can change until he learns to say no, unfortunately. Outside a bar, the bouncers offer to pay for a cab. Guy says no, calls his girlfriend, she won't pick him up because of the baby. He says he won't drive, walks off, gets in his car, does 80 miles per hour down a side road and gets busted for DUI. Offered a free cab ride home, FD up his life, could have killed someone. That ended better than I was expecting. I went to a party with a friend and she smoked meth. I worked in retail in college and met her there. She was really nice, and we had the same sense of humor. After a few weeks she invited me to a house party in the middle of nowhere, and it was all like all dudes in their 30s, she was dating one of them, and we were like the only girls. I wanted to leave right away because not only were the people weird but the house was weird too, like there were no outlet covers on the outlets, and barely any furniture, but there was a stripper pole in the living room. She drove and convinced me to stay for one drink. When I got back from the kitchen with a beer, she asked me if I wanted to smoke meth. She actually called it something else, but I didn't understand and only figured it out after she started explaining it to me. I declined and then watched kind of in shock as she started to smoke it while her boyfriend started telling me that it wasn't as bad as people think. I ended up calling my boyfriend to come get me and walking to the main road to wait for him because I really didn't want to be near that house. The next time I saw her at work, she told me that a few hours after I had left, a guy who had been punched at the party had called the cops, and she had been too afraid to go back to her car after running from the house, so she had spent the whole night just walking around in the nearby woods. I quit like 2 months later and never saw her again, but my friend who continued to work there told me a few months after the girl was fired for smoking meth in the bathroom at work. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.